good morning. It would appear that it is time once again for us to discuss solar generators. And I hate calling it that. It's an incorrect term. There is only one solar generator, and that's the sun. These are just power banks, battery banks. That's all they are, but it's what the industry calls them. So in order for you to understand what I'm talking about, we'll call them solar generators. Yeah, it really does kind of get under my skin that much. So apparently there's a company that has been sending out free samples, if you will, to YouTube channels to test and review their product. Now, I want to start out by saying that, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do at all, okay? And there are two different types of preppers out there. There are the types of preppers that don't have a fortune and they have to be extremely responsible with their purchases. And then there's those that, they don't have to worry about that so much and they love clicking add to cart. Okay? If you're one of those add to cart clickers, you go do you, boo. Don't let me get in the way. But if you're somebody that doesn't have all that kind of expendable income and have to be a little bit more wise about your choices, you might want to stay tuned in. So, again, they're making their rounds, and unfortunately, there's a multitude of problems when this happens. For one, when companies give out these products to, say, YouTube influencers, they are expecting a positive review in return, because the reason why they're giving them out, they're giving that one unit out in hopes to sell 10, 15, 20 units. Okay? That's the whole idea, or else they wouldn't give the one unit out. So, first of all, you have to understand that. And there is only one person that I know of in all of this when it comes to review stuff that had approached it that I saw the correct way right from the beginning. And that was Tim Pool. And it involved the Freedom Phone thing that was going around. He would not accept one from the guy who was running the business, the company. He wouldn't accept one. When they released, he was going to seek one out that was just on the market, just one like you and I would buy. And then that was the unit he was going to test and go through. He wasn't going to take one that the company gave him, for obvious reasons. So that's one thing I want to point out, is that, understand that these channels that are reviewing these things, they were sent models. So, it makes it real hard to know whether or not a little bit extra quality assurance went in on those models, if you know what I mean. So let's have a talk about this. And I'm going to bring up the product that right now is the hot thing that everybody's selling. I'm going to bring it up so you can see, because I can't have this discussion unless we pin down some numbers here. So since we're in Rome, let's do Rome things, right? This is the unit that everybody's pimping right now. Generac Solar Generator, Home Power 1 Series. And so what you get with this unit that's being pimped is, I believe it's a 1,000 watt unit. Let me see the specs here. Yeah, 1,000 watt rated power, 2,000 watt surge, at 110 volts. Now, keep in mind, I already watched one review video. I believe it was Southern Prepper 1 that put out a video on this. And he was talking about how with that unit, he couldn't run his circular saw. Now, I understand a lot of circular saws run around the 15 amp range or so. Okay, and 1,000 watts at 120 volts, you're roughly talking about 10 amps, roughly, right? So, I understand that that goes out of that range, but that should fall under surge, because that saw, unless it's under load, right, there's only two times that saw draws its maximum current, and that is when you first press the switch and when it's under load. When the more load that it's under, the more current it's going to draw. Okay, So if that 1,000-watt unit with the 2,000-watt surge can't power that circular saw of yours, it's junk. Junk with a capital J. Okay? Also, on this deal, they give you a whole whopping 200 watts to charge that unit with. 200 watts to charge a 1,002 watt-hour device. So, 200 watts for an hour would be 200 watt hours. So if you could get 200 watts out of those panels, which is a huge problem right there, if you could get 200 watts out of those panels, you're already looking at a minimum of 5 hours charge time. Absolute minimum from dead to full. Okay? Absolute minimum. But there's a problem here. Everybody's only reporting getting a little over 100 watts out of 200 watts worth of panels. And a lot of them are kind of tossing off and saying, oh, yeah, that's normal and that. No, it's not. My Rock Pals panels, they actually outproduce their rating. So that's not true. I have some generic, no-name, semi-flexible panels. They're 60-watt panels, which is interesting because any panel that I can find like it are 50-watt panels. But let me tell you something. Mine puts out 60 watts. Puts out 60 watts, as rated. Right? And, yeah, that's in direct sunlight. But it's a far cry better than 80% of the claim, I mean, I'm getting 100% of the claim. So that should be concerning about this brand there. And I don't know why these folks continue to make these reviews on these things when they already start running into these glaring issues with them. When you've got 200 watts of panels and you're only able to pull in 118 to 120 watts, yeah, you got screwed. That's what you got. You got screwed. So anyway, folks, these bigger units, they're not worth it. They just aren't worth it. You're better off getting yourself some, like, for instance, I'll throw another company out there, Renogy. You would be better off buying yourself, 200 or 400 watts worth of Renogy panels, getting a solar charge controller and an inverter, and building your own system. You would be light years ahead of these boxes. Okay? Now, when you're talking the boxes that are anywhere from, say, 100 watts, even on up to 500 watts, those aren't so bad. Those aren't so bad. And the reason why is because you're not really getting ripped off nearly as bad with them. But the bigger the units you go, obviously the more expensive you go, and actually the less bang for your buck that you get. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. They're great for the smaller units. 100 watt, 300 watt, even up to 500 watt, although I even kind of look a little squinty-eyed at a 500 watt going, I don't know. Yeah, anything beyond that, nah. Set up a real system. The other issue with these quote-unquote solar generators is it's all in one. So what that means is if your power inverter goes out, your box is done. If your batteries go bad, your box is done. If your charge controller goes out, your box is done. That really how you want to deal with it? I would hope not. I would hope not. This stuff is no good on a larger scale. Okay? And I'm telling you, I have this sneaky suspicion that Generarch has sent out a ton and a half of these. Folks, do your homework. Please. I hate seeing people get ripped off. And these companies are masters at it. Shalom.